the inside of the lodge. Log cabin constructed by a fellow by the name of Burton. All handcrafted. Even the hinges on the doors are done by blacksmithing. The lights that are hanging as chandeliers are all glass-leaded, handmade chandeliers. Notice the old canoe, which I think originally was made by an Indian on site many moons ago.
Thou art clothed with honor and majesty, who hast stretched out the heavens like a tent, who makest the clouds thy chariot, who didst set the earth on its foundations. Thou makest springs gush forth in the valleys. By them the birds of the air have their habitation. O Lord, how manifold are thy works. May the glory of the Lord endure forever. I will sing to the Lord as long as I live. May my meditation be pleasing to him. Bless the Lord, O my soul.
Today we're here to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the beginning of Camp Stevens. And I wonder if we still speak the language of those people who founded the camp in 1891. In 1893, after spending 2 years at Keewatin Beach, 4 men, R.D. Richardson, C.M. Copeland, W.D. Bailey Sr., and James Ball, set out by rowboat to find a site for a camp. And they chose these islands. If you're going to understand what they were looking for, you may have to remember something about Winnipeg in the 1890s. You may have to remember that Winnipeg was a frontier town, that Winnipeg was a boom town, that there was a saloon on every corner, that there were more men by a long way than there were women in the city, that the big political issue was whether or not there would be an official red light district and whether the city fathers would set aside part of the city and protect those who were running brothels within the city of Winnipeg. There were incredible fortunes being made as people speculated on land. The price of land along Main Street and Portage Avenue was virtually as high in the 1890s as it is today. In more settled parts of the country, Winnipeg was held up as an example of debauchery, the Sodom and Gomorrah of the West. At the same time, there was a religious revival going on. And people like those 4 men who set out to find a camp were looking for a place where young people, particularly young men, ask of those people 100 years ago, and the question they may want to ask of us is this: is Camp Stevens a place to which people escape? Somewhere where they run away from the world? Or is it a training ground, a birthing place from which people are sent out to give life to the world? I don't know for sure that I have the answer to that question. You are the people who have the answer to that question. You may find it gets answered as you talk with people during the rest of this day, as you've been talking to people yesterday and earlier this morning. As you find out what people have been doing. What did people do with the kind of experience they had at Camp Stevens? As you remember your feelings of being away from home. As you remember the camp nurse who found fault with your cabin after you'd spent all morning raking the sand into nice little straight lines and getting white stones all lined up beautifully. And she found that sock that was stuck away back in the back corner. But also as you think about those conversations late at night conversations about sex. Those stories told by little boys whose voices hadn't changed yet. Those stories that you were ashamed to admit you didn't know what they were talking about, but you laughed and said, oh, yeah, oh. Okay, as you remember kind of what it was like to be here, ask yourself again, is Camp Stevens just a place where I spent my summer? Was Camp Stevens just a babysitting project that my parents had as a way to kind of get me off for a couple of weeks? Or did I learn things that I was able to use for the rest of my life? Did we learn how to make pictures like Norvell Morrisseau? Pictures that unite us to God and to the world and to the people around us? Did we learn the importance of I'm Third? The gospel lesson that Jack McCaig read gave us the command of Jesus. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. That's what the four men who set out in a rowboat 100 years ago wanted the young men of their time to learn. They wanted the young men and the young women of Winnipeg and of the surrounding areas to learn that they were part of God's creation, that they were loved by God, and then they wanted them to take that love and to use it for the service of others. Well, the times change. And sometimes it seems to Grandfather Paquin that the bear no longer speaks Indian. And we sometimes think that the distance is so great and the times have changed so much, we don't understand one another anymore. The ways in which the biblical command to love one another are conveyed may have changed over the years. Probably if Messrs. Richardson, Copeland, Bailey, and Ball were here today, they might be going around harumphing a lot. They'd be saying, harumph, what happened to the morning Bible study? Harumph, what happened to the Wednesday night prayer meeting? Well, yeah, things have changed. There would be things they wouldn't recognize. It's not just changes in the building, it's changes in the way in which the program is carried on. But if they looked beyond the externals, if they looked deeper, and if we've done our task well, then they would find young men and women who've learned to care for one another, learned to respect the creation that God has given us, and learn that each of us has a place in this world. For lots of us, we look around and we see that the buildings have changed, and if we were here as the program was running, we'd probably find the program was a lot different too. But there are things that will be the same. If you've ever seen a Norvell Morrisseau painting, you will know that there's a line connecting all the parts. In the Christian tradition, we would call that the Holy Spirit. There is a spirit that connects us to those people who began here 100 years ago. And there is a spirit that will connect us to those who will come after us, who will be here 20 years and 30 years and 40 years from now. It is the spirit that tells us that we are loved, and the spirit that tells us that we belong, and the spirit that sends us out into the world to be of service to others. The spirit that comes from God and makes us one with the lake and with the islands and with the trees and with the people of this place. Thanks be to God.